I just recently got back from a trip with a friend to LA, and I love watching those like things to do in this city videos. So I figured I would share everything that we did, places where we ate, things we saw, and just some like cool unique things that I didn't see in a lot of those like LA things to do videos, in case you are planning your own trips to LA in the near future. So we'll get started right away. We'll do places first, and then I'll talk a little bit more about like food and restaurants and stuff like that. One thing I do want to know is we did rent a car. So a lot of the things that we did, it was helpful to have a car. I know there are some places you can go to with like public transport, or if you get an Uber or something, but for us it was just easier because we wanted to see a lot of things. It was just easier to drive around and rent a car. So I definitely would recommend that if you do have a lot of things on your list. It's just easier to rent a car, even though I will say parking in LA is so expensive. So I definitely will know when things are free, or like talk a little bit about the parking situation, in case that hopefully helps. So first, this one isn't a couple of other like things to do in LA videos, but it's the Getty Center. Not to be confused with the Getty Villa, which is something different, but the Getty Center is this beautiful museum. They do have some great exhibits, but honestly just the area is such a vibe. I would definitely recommend just going and hanging out, just like sitting down, maybe having a coffee or something. It was absolutely beautiful. You have a lot of scenic views. It's just a nice area to just relax. Tickets are free, but they do have timed entrances, so that's just something to keep in mind. And definitely take the trolley up. It is so pretty, like the way you go up the mountain. If you sit at the very front, you can see how the trolley moves up the tracks, and it's just like so pretty. So even though it is on a bunch of lists, I will confirm it is a really nice spot to go to. Now on the other hand, place that I don't recommend, even though it is on a bunch of lists, is the Griffith Observatory. It's also free though. If you are driving, you would have to pay for parking, and the views from the top are quite nice, but it's just a very rundown building. I think the last renovation they did there was like in 2002, so it just looks and smells like a very old museum, if you know that like musky old museum smell. It's definitely like a cute activity, but it's not something that I would have like gone out of my way if I had known a little bit more about it. Although I will say that it's probably cooler to go like closer to sundown, because then you have the beautiful views of the city. But I think you can also access the telescope, so if you want to look through there, that would be so cool. And I think it's only at certain hours that they do that. So if you are going to go, I would say definitely go at night. Don't waste too much time there and just go later in the day. And Griffith Observatory is in Griffith Park, which actually I wish I had done that instead, because I know that there's like a hike which is supposed to be like not too bad, and you walk all the way up to the Hollywood sign, so that's also something to keep in mind. I probably, like now knowing that, would choose having done the hike over going to the observatory, but just something to keep in mind. Now on to museums. There are so many museums in Los Angeles, so definitely plenty to choose from. I already mentioned the Getty, and we also went to the Academy Museum, which was really cool. It's a couple floors with different exhibits on like famous movies. You can see some of the props, some of the costumes that were used in movies, which I'm a huge fan of, so I had so much fun. I absolutely loved the Godfather section. I thought it was so cool, and they do have an Academy Award experience, which I thought was so fun. My friend actually did it, and you get to hold up your award and they send you a video afterwards, so I thought it was really cute. They also have a little deck at the top of the building, and you also get some beautiful views. There are just a ton of places in Los Angeles where you can get a beautiful view of the city, so that's definitely one of them. Then literally right next to the Academy Museum is LACMA, and they also have some really cool art pieces there as well. You may have seen that famous exhibit that it almost looks like a canyon. It's so beautiful. They also have a really cool exhibit right now that's almost like a little city with like cars and trains, so definitely ask so you don't miss out on that, because it's usually turned off, but then every so often they run the little city. They'll turn it on and the trains will run, the cars will run, and it's just so cool. And then of course right outside the museum they have the really famous lamps. Definitely go earlier in the morning if you want to get a lot of good pictures, because then during the day there's definitely a lot more tourists. But that's outside and completely free, so you don't need entrance to the museum in order to take pictures at the lamps. Another museum we did is the Broad Museum. This one is pretty small. It's really only one floor of exhibits and art pieces, which I thought was perfectly fine, but they do have some really cool kind of interactive pieces. So you may have seen online the giant table and chair. It was so much fun to go there. You really feel so tiny next to it. I think the table is like 10 feet tall. It's really crazy. They also have the giant animal balloon sculpture, some really famous Andy Warhol prints, and some other really cool interactive pieces. Some of them do get a line if you want to like take a picture or videos for, but we went pretty late in the day. I think we went around like 4 o'clock on a Thursday, and there was not that many people, so I think as long as you're not like on a weekend or something, it should be fine. But all of the museums that we went to are pretty small, so you don't need like a whole day to spend there. Like I think an hour or two is more than enough. Now this isn't exactly a museum, but I'm going to lump it together with the museums, and it's the Warner Bros studio tour. This was so cool. So basically they take you in a little cart around the studio. You can see some of the locations where they filmed some of their movies, some of their TV shows, and then they have a separate part that's more like a museum that has some interactive exhibits that you can like play around with. There's also a ton of props from movies. They had an entire Batman section when we went, which was so cool. I think it was like the first time all the Batman costumes are together. If you're a Harry Potter fan, there's another little section for Harry Potter where you can be sorted into a house. You can pull out mandrakes. It's just a bunch of really cute things. The first part of the tour is I think like an hour long, and then the rest is self-guided, so you go at your own pace. So you can spend as much or as little time as you want there, but we just had such a good time there, so I would definitely recommend, especially if you're really into movies. And on a side note, we did go to Disneyland as well. That's not like a unique place or anything like that when you're in Los Angeles, but I think it's only like an hour drive. I think even less if there's no traffic. But if you are planning to go to Disneyland, I highly recommend the Lightning Lane Pass. I think it's an extra $30, and we went on so many rides because of it. I think we did like almost all the rides. It saved us so much time that we would have spent just like waiting, and thankfully we went on a day where there wasn't a ton of people, but still like we would have had to wait at least like 30 minutes for every single ride, so it saved us a lot of time. So definitely recommend. Best $30 I've ever spent in Disney properties ever. Now speaking of places a little further out of Los Angeles, there's obviously Malibu, but if you drive just a little bit further down, there's another beach called El Matador Beach. I think it's a state beach, and it's just a little bit quieter. It has these beautiful rock formations everywhere, although I will warn you, it is a little bit of a hike getting down to the beach, so just be careful. But it is a really beautiful beach, a little bit quieter, less people, and just like a really cool spot to just like hang out for a bit. It does have a pretty small parking lot at the top, so I think as long as you're there like probably before 10 or 11, you should be good. But we really liked it, so I wanted to mention it as another beach option to Malibu. And the rest of the things we did were all kind of like architecture, interior design based. So the friend that I went on this trip with is a huge interior design architecture fan, so she booked us some really cool tours. The first one we went to is Schindler's House. It is such a cool building. You can definitely see some of the Asian influence, and it's wild to me how something so old can still feel and look so modern. And it just goes to show you that all of these trends like always come back around. So honestly, that kitchen I was like obsessed with, and I would totally have it in my home one day, so there you go. The next house tour that we did, which was probably my favorite, was the Gamble House. You may recognize it if you're a Back to the Future fan, but it was actually Doc's house in the movies. But this is another really old home that you can tour. It is absolutely stunning, the attention to detail that went into that home. And the tour guides are great at explaining all the small details of the home, how it came to be, why they designed things the way they did. And it was nice because it had its own free parking, so that's a plus. But the tour is an hour long, and I would definitely recommend it. It was so cool and so informative, and it was just really cool walking around the house and trying to imagine like how people used to live there, and also imagining yourself like how you would live in it now. I don't know, I just thought it was really fun. Next we toured the Hollyhock house, and once again the house is really beautiful. It's again like very modern but still feels very old, and there were so many things that I'm like, I would have that in my house, I would have that in my house. It was just so beautiful. It's also on the top of a hill, and it has this beautiful viewpoint. I think there's like a bit of a garden outside that you can sit at as well. We saw a couple of moms with their babies on their blankets outside, so that was really nice. If you do have a little bit of extra time, I'm sure you can picnic there if you want and enjoy the views. You can get a really good view of the Hollywood sign from there, so that's really nice as well. We also went to 2 hotels. Like they were not like tours per se, but we just kind of went in just to look around. The first is the Santa Monica Proper Hotel. It's so gorgeous. Obviously if you're not a guest, there's certain areas that you don't have access to, but even just the restaurant is really stunning. I think in the future I'm definitely going to have a meal there because it was just such a beautiful place. So I definitely recommend, if you are into interior design and all of that, or just want to see a really pretty hotel, definitely go and see it in person because it is absolutely stunning. And the other hotel we went to is the Chateau Marmont. My friend told me that this is where Miley Cyrus hangs out, so that's why we went. But it is so cool inside. It has like a very vintage feel to it. Absolutely stunning. You can't take pictures or videos inside, so I only got the one one picture before I realized I was not supposed to. But it's just a really cool vibey place to go. You can go for drinks, you can go for a meal if you're not a guest at the hotel, and it's just like, it's such a vibe. It's such a cool place. They also have some really delicious mocktails, so definitely recommend. And the last little activity that I would recommend is a comedy show at the Comedy Store. It is a very intimate venue, so you will be like packed like sardines. So if you're claustrophobic, maybe I wouldn't recommend it. But if you don't mind being like elbow to elbow with people, it's a really cool spot. A ton of celebrities are known to go there and just try out their stand-up, so you never know who's gonna pop up that night. You do need tickets, and I think there's also a 2-drink minimum inside, so you do have to pay for drinks, but they do have like non-alcoholic beverages. But that's just something to keep in mind that we didn't know. And they do also have parking like right next to the Comedy Store, and I think it was like 25 bucks or something. So a bit of a pricey outing because it's like the ticket, the parking, and the drinks inside, but it was really fun. So if you do like comedy and you want just like a fun night out, I would definitely recommend it. And now we're moving on to food. So the first thing that we did was go to Erewhon, as you do when you go to California. And of course we had to have the Hailey Beaver smoothie. It was actually so freaking good, and I hate to admit it because I did not want to say that like a $20+ smoothie was gonna be really good and life-changing, but it really was. And we were seriously considering going back and getting another one, but we just did not have enough time. If you're only gonna go to one Erewhon, I would highly recommend the one in Palisades. It's inside like a little shopping area, so there are a bunch of really nice stores. There was like a Dip Tea, there was a Totem, like very bougie stores, but it was just really nice. I think the day that we went on a Sunday. There was also a farmer's market, so it was just a really nice vibe. Very like bougie area, but it was really, really pretty. And I'm not sure if it's the only one, but they did validate your parking, so it was basically free parking, which we love because like I said, LA parking is expensive. We went and had breakfast there and then drove on to Malibu and the beaches, so that's definitely something I would recommend. And if you are in Malibu, I would definitely recommend Taverna Tony. It's this really cute Greek restaurant. Aesthetically, it was just like beautiful. It was so pretty, and they do have indoor and outdoor seating. They give you this dip and bread when you come in, and I don't know what the heck was in it, but it was so freaking good. And if you're only ordering one thing, order the calamari. It's a huge portion, so definitely like to share, but it was some of the best calamari I've ever had in my life. It was so good, so crispy, so flavorful. It was like cooked to perfection. So 10 out of 10, I would go back to Taverna Tony purely for the dip and the calamari. And it's also in another nice little shopping area, so you can look around at the stores as well. Now, if you want a quick little snack, definitely check out Paderia. They have these crazy chunky cookies. It was like almost like a muffin top, but they were really good. We got the double chocolate one, which I think is like their most popular one, but it was really, really rich and really good. So if you want a quick little snack, definitely check it out. And they do have free parking in the little lot right in front of the store, so that's also a plus. Now let's talk pasta, because I love pasta. So we went to 2 Italian restaurants. The first one was Lavo. The inside, the aesthetics were absolutely gorgeous, and I think all the food is like locally sourced and organic, but honestly it was okay. Like, it wasn't bad, but all the other food we ate was just so much better that it kind of like outshined this place. So if you're only going to go to one Italian restaurant, I would say make it Uovo. Oh my god, it's probably the best pasta I've ever had in my entire life. It was so good. They have a tasting menu, which I've never seen before at an Italian restaurant like that, but basically it's just a couple of small dishes so that you can try various plates. So the one that we had was like a beef tartare as the appetizer, then it had like 3 types of pasta. It was so good. One with like beef, one that was like a tortellini soup, and then another one that was like tomato based. Oh, so we ate so much pasta. And then of course you ended off with a little bit of a tiramisu. So it was so good. It really is like some of the best pasta I've ever had, and rightfully so, because I think they like ship it overnight from Italy or something crazy like that. And it wasn't too expensive either. I think for that whole like tasting menu it was like 30 bucks per person, which I think is reasonable, especially if, like I said, you're shipping the pasta overnight from Italy. Like, that's crazy. But yeah, it was so good. Like, I think I could have eaten like just the pasta by itself with no sauce and it would have been delicious. It was just such good quality pasta. And they do have multiple locations as well. I'll put the one that we went to, but that one did have its own like parking garage in another kind of like shopping area as well, and they did validate it, so it was like a reduced price for the parking, which was definitely a plus. Now for something more like casual, you do have Howling Ray's chicken. Y'all know I'm in Nashville, so I love hot chicken, even though I don't like spicy food, but Hattie B's in Nashville is my favorite. So I was a tough critic, but the Howling Rays was actually really good. It's still no Hattie B's, but I will give it my stamp of approval. Their coleslaw was really good. Their comeback sauce was so good. It was very like garlicky, delicious, and the people are so freaking nice. They were so nice. They also have a couple of different locations, so just pick whichever one is closest to you. I'm sure they'll all be just as good. And now probably for the best meal I have ever had, it was For the Win. It is literally the best burger I've ever had in my entire life. It's a smash burger, so it was like really thin and crunchy, crispy on the edges. The french fries taste like the McDonald's fries hotter older sister. Like they was like the same but way better. They was just so good. Like I would fly back right now to Los Angeles just for another burger and fries. It was so freaking good. I think they only have one location, so it is what it is. You have to go to that one. They do have a small lot in front of the restaurant, but if that runs out, there's like street parking in the neighborhoods around it. But there is really so much to do and see and eat in Los Angeles. This is just like scratching the surface. I definitely hope to go back in the future because we did have a lot of fun with my friend, and like I said, there's so much to do and see. But hopefully this video will give you some ideas for your own trip. I also have a highlight on my Instagram of this whole trip, so you can always go back to that and see some of the stuff. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments or shoot me a message on Instagram. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe because there are a lot more travel related videos coming very soon. So I will see you all in another video. Bye!